Hey, hey, it's Boles.tv. It's Boles .television. And we're here with you live from the East Coast at high noon. So many things to talk about today. The first thing I'm going to talk about after the first break has been winding me up for a day and a half. Furiously so. And trying to calm myself down and find a reasonable and rational way to have a conversation about it. Maybe it will happen, maybe it won't. I guess we'll find out. But in the meantime, a whole new slew of Taylor Swift art. I have taken up the challenge to get her rendered in different and interesting ways. I've not given up. So we'll take a look at that. And if I've been successful, and if I've not been successful. But at least I have her, despite her best efforts. And we're not doing this through Doll E, who has banned her for some reason, or they're terrified of her for some reason. Oh my goodness. Gordon says, appropriate for today, on which I hope to get tickets to see her in New Jersey. Well, I hope it works out. And I'm laughing because you used to live around here, and now then you moved to Florida. So you have to come back to get your Taylor Swift hit. Fun. That would be great. And what else is in the news? Well, I guess we'll just start talking about some things that are going on. Oh, for the first time since November 2020. Wonderful. The Conquering Sun returns. So our old friend Jay Leno had a big accident. And I love his new show, Jay Leno's Garage. I think it's on CNBC. I watched all of his shows, and that's a funny show. It's about cars, but it's also about his friends and his relationship with cars. And he had an accident in his own garage where he stores all of his precious cars, and I guess he was working on it and it blew up and he got gasoline on his face and on his arm and he's all burned up. And he has to cancel some stand-up comedy. And Jay is very popular at stand-up comedy. He's very smart with his money. I think he was getting paid something like $12 million a year to do The Tonight Show, and he put away all that money, never touched it. And the money that he and his wife lived on, was all paid for by his stand-up comedy. And Jay's a big name, so he can go and get, $30,000 a night. And if you're doing that, 2 or 3 times a week, or 5 times a month, that's enough to live on. And he's always done that. He does not spend his salary. He only spends his comedy money. And some people don't like that about him. Some people think he's a big phony and a fake. I've always liked Jay Leno. I think he's very funny. And another great thing about Jay is that he never took vacation. Johnny Carson, especially toward the end of his career, was on, twice a week with guest hosts the rest of the week. Rachel Maddow has now followed that model, where she's only doing her show on Mondays, and Alex Wagner takes the rest of the week. Weird, very strange. Only returns for important events. So Jay Leno never took a vacation because he's a very smart guy. Comes from a middle-class working family. That when you leave, for whatever reason, you can be very easily replaced. Especially in the entertainment world. And so if he's not on, and they want a live show, they're going to find somebody who's going to go on there and look for a break and try to kick him out. So he wouldn't have any part of it. He wouldn't do it. He just worked every single day ever. It was fabulous. So we hope that Jay feels better. He says, give me a couple of weeks to get back, I'll be okay. I'm not so sure. If your face has been burned by fire, and he has a beautiful head of hair, I don't know if he can come back in 2 weeks, but maybe Jay can. He's very tough. What else is in the news? Well, wherever you turn, unfortunately, it just seems that we see dead people. Ugh. I'm not trying to be funny. It's just part of the grotesqueness of the world in which we live. Where people are shot in Virginia and Idaho and the bodies are piling up. And you wonder what happened. What makes people turn against their own best interest to basically end their own life and just go out and start shooting people for fun and sport? Because you're upset, because you're jealous. And then we have the 60 Minutes Australia interview with Kari Lake, who lost her attempt to be the governor of the great state of Arizona. And of course, she's calling foul, and she's mini Trump, and she's very slick and smooth and deceptive, and did the local news in the Phoenix area on 2 different stations for 20 years. And she gave an interview remotely to 60 Minutes Australia, and they just asked about guns. And she said, oh, we need guns in America. We need to protect each other. We need to protect ourselves. You people in Australia who have outlawed guns, well, you're in danger. You've lost all your freedom. We have all the freedom we need right here in America. And then in a whole day, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 people dead, shot. Oh, that's America. That's what we love. Land of the free. Of the maybe not so brave. Which takes me to my next thought. And Donald Trump. And I guess he's announcing today. I guess the Republicans are trying to hold him back from announcing until after Georgia, but he's not going to. I don't think. Who knows with him? But Kari Lake was supposed to be number 1 on his list for VP. That's not happening. Because she's a loser. Now, Donald Trump is a loser too, but Kari Lake is a confirmed loser. You can't have 2 losers on a presidential ballot. So now they're saying, well, it's going to be Kristi Noem or Stefaniak from New York. Oh. It's not going to be Stefaniak because Trump likes tall, thin, lithe women. Now, Kari Lake isn't that either, but she has a very beautiful face with the right filter. So he's going to look for someone very tall and very interesting. And Noem is perfect. She kind of looks like the sort of women that he marries. But here's an interesting poll that came out. Read it this morning. Potential candidates against Mr. Trump. And the numbers are very telling. Now, they're not talking about Glenn Youngkin or Ron DeSantis. This is just Trump versus the field, which is so ridiculous. But here it is. Biden, 44.5% over Trump, 44.3%. That's pretty close. Gavin Newsom in California, 45%, Trump, 43%. Jerome Siegel, is this some kind of joke? He's a socialist guy in Maryland running for governor. Weird. Who would put him in this? Very odd. I guess Zogby did the poll. 39% for Trump. So Jerome Siegel, who's no one has ever heard of, a socialist of Maryland, beats Trump. So those are the 3, Biden, Gavin Newsom, and Jerome Siegel. Now we get into the Bernie Sanders would win 40%. Trump would have 45%. Woo! I didn't think it would be that far apart. I thought Bernie would do a little bit better. I love Bernie. Kamala Harris. Oh, this is trouble. And we all know it's trouble. 38% Kamala, 45% old Trump. I think we have a Kamala Harris problem in America. Yes, she's the vice president. Yes, she made history. She's no Joe Biden. She doesn't come off well. Generally, people don't have a warm liking to her. And when you're running for president, you want people to like you. Is Biden going to keep her if he runs again? Of course he has to. We can't get rid of her. But if he doesn't run and she's running, it's going to be a big problem because people will not support her. Pete Buttigieg, my favorite. Love Pete. 39%. Ooh, Trump beats him by 10. 49%. Hillary Clinton. 41%. Trump beats her also by 10. 51%. So there you go. That is the field. That's what's happening in the world. Now, speaking of Trump, hey, Tiffany Trump just got married. She had a Mar-a-Lago wedding featuring masked dancers and an 8-tier cake. Now, I happen to really like Tiffany Trump. I think she has maybe a little bit of a relationship problem with her New York relatives, her brothers and sisters. And I understand why, because of how things rolled out between her mother and her father. But I know Marla Maples. I worked with her on Broadway when she was in Will Rogers' Follies, and she was absolutely delightful. And so if Tiffany is anything remotely like her mother, she's a wonderful, terrific person. And she isn't being treated very well by the family. It seems like she's sort of an outsider. And maybe this is the benefit. I guess she's in law school, becoming a lawyer, is a lawyer, I don't know. But she has not been indicted or mentioned by any district attorneys in the state of New York for breaking any laws. She's been banned from nothing that we know so far. Maybe it's not in the genes. So here she is, posing with Ivanka Trump. Now, Ivanka got a lot of hassle for looking like a Disney princess. And they named the princess that she looks like. I did not recognize the name. And she is wearing very high heels for some reason that people didn't like. Regular people, smarter than me, do not like this flower thing, these flower arches. However, people who know more than I know say that Tiffany's dress was very beautiful. And Trump in all the pictures, even this one, thumbs up. He's either doing this or he's doing this. Even walking her down the aisle, he's giving the thumbs up. The Kushner family. Lovely photograph. Melania, very happy. There's Marla. Eric's wife, Ivanka. Again with the family. There's the dress. Very beautiful dress. She looks very lovely. I hope she has a good and happy life. I hope she has some sort of relationship with her father because I think for her it's important. And there is Ivanka. And then they talk about the dancers. People couldn't figure out what exactly is going on here. Masked dancers with like gags in their mouth. Here's the lovely couple with their first dance. It's very nice. It's nice they were able to have the wedding at Mar-a-Lago. It's a beautiful place. I would be nervous too if I were dancing there. Everybody looking at me, the whole world. Just do a couple of twirls. Don't step on her dress. There you go. It's very nice. So I hope Tiffany has a wonderful, wonderful life. It's not going to be easy. Oh, this. Ivanka cropped out Kimberly Guilfoyle from Tiffany's wedding photos. Now that's news. Oh, so this is the original photo. And we were just watching Ivanka's Instagram feed. Oh, I really do love that. Is she wearing black to a wedding? I'm hoping it's navy blue. Oh, that's funny. Cropped right out. Hey, what else is in the news? Well, our good friend Kevin Drum, who is doing better, by the way, is multiple melanoma. Businesses hate E-Verify. Did Ron DeSantis try to pass it anyway? Now, Kevin's in California, but he writes about politics for Cal Pundit originally, and now he writes politics for himself. But for most of his career, he was writing for Mother Jones. So early in his first term as governor, Ron DeSantis presented the legislature to mandate universal E-Verify, the online tool run by the Department of Homeland Security that allows employers to confirm that their employees are legally authorized to work in the United States. Unfortunately, businesses don't like it, and the bill that eventually reached the governor's desk required E-Verify only for the public sector. With greater political capital thanks to his smashing victory last week, Ron DeSantis should try again for universal E-Verify. So this is Kevin's analysis. Let's take a look. Mandatory E-Verify works. This is why business conservatives did it. Building a wall, by contrast, is a little more than emotional symbolism, which is why social conservatives and business conservatives don't care one way or the other. So what did Donald Trump do? He built a wall and ignored E-Verify. Businesses were happy since they knew the wall was little more than a con with no lasting impact. What did the Florida legislature, which is 70% Republican at last count, do when they were given a choice? They voted down mandatory E-Verify. Business conservatives were satisfied yet again, and social conservatives were sort of confused. So Kevin says the answer is to who really controls the Republican Party is this: business conservatives. And we know that. Nearly everyone who's really thought about it agrees that the most effective single thing we could do to rein in an illegal immigration is to pass mandatory E-Verify at the national level and fund it with fines levied on employers. That would tick off business interests, which is probably the best indication that it's actually effective. It's also why it's consistently dead in the water. Now, the best part is reading the comments. Here's the first comment on Kevin's article. Actually, businesses don't like E-Verify because of the burden it imposes on them to verify an employee background, of course. In today's world, losing an employee, especially in a field that not many Americans find attractive, becomes more of a problem than the onerous fines that you are getting by violating E-Verify. That's the real issue here. And DeSantis signed a bill regarding public sector having to use E-Verify. Well, as a former public sector employee, I had to show proof of residency, a current driver's license, a utility bill as proof of my legal status. I also had to pass a drug and background check. I'm sure Florida is much the same, so who the Haiti-hay does DeSantis think he was fooling by signing that lousy legislation into law in Florida. E-Verify works, but you have to have enforcement in order for it to work, and DeSantis is appearing to be more and more an empty suit. And just one more comment, very interesting. It takes an employer a few days to a few weeks to get authorized to even use E-Verify. Once authorized to use it, each employee, they then enter into the system, takes a few seconds to a few minutes to get a response regarding their legal employability. I fail to see how burdensome this is, but I'm also not trying to make excuses for why employers cannot possibly be expected to take on this burden, when employers in all of our peer countries do a similar process mandated by their own national governments. And that really is what it comes down to. Who are you? What are you going to do? What do you believe in? There are people you want to hire, but maybe you don't want people to know that you've hired them. And so terrible things begin to happen. And I have just figured out why I look so weird. And that's why I put up this screen, but I'll leave the... Uh-oh, where'd my thing go? This is what I want. Test pattern. Now I'll leave the microphone on, but I realize I've messed up on my sexy lighting. Now I'm going to come back and see how we look. Thank you for the test pattern, Gordon. Here I come. Meow. Oh, this is so much better. I look better. See, I had the key lights on, and then because I was having trouble because I had to update my software again, I left my main light on. And that's why I was looking so weird. Out of focus, the wrong color. Oh boy. Oh my heavens. That's so much better. See? You had an opportunity, Gordon, to say something, and you didn't say anything. It's okay to tell me I look terrible. I'm used to it. But there's software called Control Center that is from Elgato that controls, as I've talked about many times, all my lights. These two, and then the one you see in the back that has the green. And almost every day one of them doesn't come on. And they're supposed to be on the same network. It's all invisible. Just hit one button and everything turns on. Great idea. Execution doesn't work well so much. So here we go, starting it up. Hey, new software for Command Center. Now, normally I panic a little bit because new software usually means many problems. But with this one, I thought, well, we really can't have any more problems than we already have. So I said, do I install it now or do I wait until after the show? I do it now. So I installed it. I lost a light. Turned it back on. It came back on. Everything worked out well. And then I left the light on. It's been one of those days. As I told you, I've been all wound up for 18 hours. And I do get wound up often, but not as wound up as this. Because this is something we've talked about many times before, and now it's reared its ugly head in the most fascinating and, dare I say, delightful way, because it is so clearly cut from a vision point of view. And that's all I'm going to say about that till I come back. Because if I start talking about it, I'm going to lose all my energy. So now we're taking our break, and what's our topic? I already typed it in because I know what I'm doing for once, except when it comes to lighting. Next, beating a righteous bigot. Well, it sounds interesting. And it just might be. Returning in a moment. And we're back from break. This is Boles TV, B-O-L-E-S, television. Coming to you live from the East Coast of the United States. Every day, high noon. So when you talk about an interesting topic that is difficult and boiling and twisted and fiery and ashen, you want to try to come at it the right way. Set it up properly. Create the frame so you have a frame of reference and a context that makes sense. So we're going to talk about bigotry now, and it's a terrible, nasty thing. And when bigotry and wokeness become combined in sort of a disgusting slurry of human emotion and bad intentions, you have to be careful how you set the stage. So I'm going to try to do that now by talking about a couple of self-admissions and also talking about how things work in the deaf community. So the first thing we're going to talk about, in the deaf community, interpreters are a vital, necessary part of being included in mainstream culture. Interpreters are hard to find. Interpreters who are reliable and caring and thoughtful can be hard to find. Best interpreters usually come from families, CODA families, children of deaf adults, because they've grown up, they know the rules, they know the code of ethics, they're terrific. And then there are other, hearing people who are just as wonderful. But because nothing is perfect in the world, and Jana Marie, my beautiful, lovely wife, who happens to be deaf, her phrase that she taught me, that we feed to each other almost every day, is, "It's better than nothing." And if you're deaf or disabled, sometimes you are expected to have nothing. And when it comes to interpreters, people who are not deaf tend to like perfection in representation. Meaning, you have a deaf woman in a meeting. Most hearing people who don't know better will say, "I want a female interpreter to interpret for a female deaf person." But in the real world, it doesn't work out that way. Sometimes you have men voice interpreting for women in a meeting, and it throws people off who don't know any better, and they get upset. Well, why wouldn't you have a woman interpreter interpret for a woman? Well, it doesn't really matter, because the important thing is the person being understood, the deaf person, and is the deaf person understanding? So you don't go by gender to create a proper context frame for understanding. And for people who tend to want a female voice interpreting for a female deaf person and a male voice interpreting for a male, they don't really usually ever bring up skin color. Well, Jen is a white woman from the Midwest, therefore, and ergo, her interpreter must be a white woman from the Midwest. In the deaf community, if it's a Filipino woman from Japan, a Filipino man from Japan, it doesn't matter. As long as they can get the job done, it's all acceptable. So now we come to this idea of wokeness. Some call it political correctness. And I'm sort of in the middle on this. And my self-confession is not necessarily related to race or gender, but ability. Let's say you're doing a show, a revival of The Miracle Worker on Broadway, and you pick a hearing-sighted person to play Helen Keller. Now, I do find that slightly offensive, because I don't believe anywhere in the world that there isn't a talented actress somewhere who can play Helen Keller, and they happen to be either blind or deaf, or miraculously, if it's possible, deaf-blind. Why have an able-bodied person go on a Broadway stage, any stage anywhere, and pretend to have multiple disabilities? So that might be my brand of wokeness, and I completely accept that. It's all about talent. Now, if you have one person here who is really super talented and happens to be able-bodied and everything, okay, fine. Put them on stage. But I don't believe that that's the reality. So many years ago, Jana Marie, my beautiful deaf wife, was involved with the Theater Development Fund. And one of my star students at Rutgers, named Mary Claire Mullane, wrote this beautiful article way back 20 years ago. Oh, I can't believe it's been that long. About the Juilliard Interpreter Training Program. And this is a program at Juilliard where the Theater Development Fund would bring in interpreters from all over the nation to come in and learn how to properly interpret a show. And like the final project was, they would interpret a Broadway show with each other, with the deaf advisors, and Jana was one of the deaf advisors who was teaching the hearing people how to interpret a Broadway show for the deaf. And I'll put this link in our Discord server so you can take a look at it. And I, this morning, took all these images and updated them with my AI program. So you can see these are absolutely gorgeous photographs from 30 years ago, probably, that are now fixed, enhanced via AI. And unfortunately, the Juilliard Interpreter Training Program was killed because it was too expensive. But the woman who was in charge of this program was Lisa Carling. And this is Lisa from 20 to 30 years ago. Charming, wonderful, talented person. Been around a long time. And Mary Claire goes on to do this wonderful explanation. These are the people who were in New York being taught and trained by Broadway interpreters and also deaf interpreters. And as we continue on, we see, oh, look, who do we see? The beautiful and talented Jana Marie Sweetheart. There on stage, interpreting with one of the students in the program. This is one of the hearing interpreter teachers, Alan Champion, who helped found that at Juilliard. Unfortunately, he's dead, died of cancer, appendix cancer, as strange as that sounds. Did a wonderful job, gave Jana her first big break on Broadway. And here she is, the superstar of my life, Jana Sweetheart, interpreting for, I believe this is 42nd Street, on Broadway. So now the stage has been set. And now we're going to get into a really nasty part of all of this. And it's very upsetting to me. As you can see, I'm personally, professionally invested in theater, in my wife, in interpreting, in what's right and what's wrong. And a terrible thing has happened on Broadway. The Lion King is now the biggest bigot on Broadway. New York Post. White Lion King sign language interpreter says he was ousted over skin color. And this is where wokeness and intention and casting and ideas become very confused and very mixed up, and intention does not properly meet reality. And I'll read you part of this article. This is Keith Wan. He is an interpreter, and he filed a federal discrimination lawsuit on Tuesday against the Theater Development Fund. You just saw Theater Development Fund, Juilliard Interpreter Training, Lisa Carling. Remember her name. You saw her face. And the director of its accessibility programs. It's not the Great White Way. A white sign language interpreter says he was booted from The Lion King on Broadway because of his skin color. Keith Wan, 53, was one of at least two people forced off the production by the non-profit Theater Development Fund, which staffs Broadway shows with American Sign Language interpreters, after the group decided it was no longer appropriate to have white interpreters represent black characters for ASL Broadway shows. And I read that yesterday, and my fury and my anger was unbound, because it's such a terrible, insulting thing to do. Gordon asked, did the theater have any say in it? Well, we're going to get to that, Gordon. But just the fact that you're the wrong color, that you can't interpret a show, is really the most disgusting thing I've ever heard. And there were multiple opportunities to fix this, and it was not fixed. Wan filed a federal discrimination lawsuit on Tuesday against the organization and the director of its accessibility programs, Lisa Carling. I can tell you right now, Lisa is in trouble, but she's not the only one. Carling told him and interpreter Christina Masla to back out of the show, which celebrates its 25th anniversary on Sunday, so they could be replaced by black sign language experts, according to the suit and emails obtained by the Post. To me, just seeing that discrimination, it doesn't matter if I'm white or black, says Wan. This is blatant, and I would just hope that other people who have also experienced this would step forward. Wan, a sign language interpreter and performer who has been working in New York for more than a decade, he'll never work again. Before or after this, he will now never work again on Broadway. He was offered the chance in March to work on one of Broadway's most acclaimed and longest-running shows. But days later, he was shocked when he received an email from Carling, Lisa Carling at the Theater Development Fund, sheepishly asking him and the other interpreter to leave the show, citing the current social climate. With great embarrassment and apologies, I'm asking you both to please back out of interpreting the show for us on Sunday, April 24, Lisa Carling wrote. I don't see any other way out of this. It seems like the best solution. Lisa Carling's decision came at the behest, this is very important, of Shelley Guy, the director of ASL for The Lion King, who I believe is deaf, and I've met her, and I can say, meeting her and reading this, surprised by any of it. Shelley Guy, the director of ASL for The Lion King, and called for Carling to get rid of all non-black interpreters, according to another email obtained by the Post and cited in the lawsuit. Now remember, I set the circle when we started. In the deaf community, it doesn't matter if a black person interprets for a white person, or if a man interprets for a female. The only thing that matters is competence in getting it done. That's the only standard that matters. Race, gender, wokeness, that should all be thrown out. But there's also a visual. And at The Lion King, I'm sure that there are more hearing people there than deaf people. And hearing people may say, oh, look at those white interpreters interpreting for a black play. Well, that's not right for this kind of musical. But those people you tell to F off and DIE because they don't know anything. You have to be strong. The majority of the characters in The Lion King are black actors, and the content takes place in Africa. Shelley Guy wrote Carling on April 1st. Now, right there is when Lisa Carling should have stood up and said, Shelley Guy, what you're saying is ridiculous, and I'm stopping it right now. I appreciate your thoughts and your concern. I'm not doing it. Because, Shelley Guy, do you realize that The Lion King, the movie and the Broadway musical, were created, written, directed, script, music, all created by white people? So you don't want white people interpreting a show that was written by white people. White people writing about the black experience in the form of a family of lions. Is that what you're saying? Briefly, Lion King, Jeremy Irons, James Earl Jones, Matthew Broderick. The choreographer for Lion King on Broadway is black, but everybody else is not. Rowan Atkinson, Nathan Lane, okay. Lion King composers, Elton John, Hans Zimmer, Tim Rice, the director of Lion King, a white woman named Julie Taymor. Irene Meshie wrote the movie and the Broadway show. White woman. Jonathan Roberts co-wrote Lion King. White guy. Linda Wolverton wrote The Lion King. A white woman. Roger Allers, white guy, wrote The Lion King. And here, original motion picture soundtrack, contains songs from the film written by Elton John and Tim Rice, and a score composed by white guy Hans Zimmer. So right there, the whole thing is absolutely functionally ridiculous. And we'll get to more of that as to the why of it when we finish this fascinating story about Keith Wan's rejection. Keith Wan, though an amazing ASL performer, is not a black person and therefore should not be representing the Lion King, Shelley Guy. I mean, what kind of person does it take to write that? Not to just think it and to observe it, but to make that bigoted comment in an email to Lisa Carling at the Theater Development Fund. And Lisa Carling did not do her job and tell Shelley Guy, we're not doing that because it's bigoted and it's racist. Anybody can interpret for anybody, anywhere, anytime on Broadway. That is being woke. An appropriate kind of being woke. The following day after that message, Wan was out of a job and the $1,000 he would have been paid to interpret the performance. Now, the sad thing is the Theater Development Fund is a wonderful organization. They provide interpreting services for Broadway shows. They provide free tickets to kids who are disadvantaged. It's a wonderful organization, and they are going to lose a lot of money because there's no way for them to win this. There is no excuse in the world that can justify Keith being fired because the person who instigated the firing, Shelley Guy, said he's an amazing ASL performer. And the only reason he was denied the job is because of his skin color. So, I don't think they're going to sue Shelley Guy. I don't think they're going to sue Lisa Carling. They're going to go after the Theater Development Fund. And unfortunately, rightfully so. Keith Wan said he never answered Lisa Carling's emails or the phone calls that followed as he ruminated on what he should do next before ultimately deciding to take his case up in Manhattan federal court. And I'm so glad he did because this cannot stand. I lost sleep over it, Wan said, adding that he has interpreted for a diverse array of performers, including black actors, and even Donkey from Shrek, without an issue. Not until Shelley Guy. Not until Lisa Carling didn't stand up and do the right thing. So this conversation now expands beyond Broadway and The Lion King. And I've talked about these issues before. Non-traditional casting, right? Big thing. Oh, it's a big thing. Where you put someone who's not a white male in the role of someone who's not a white male role that's not a white male person. That's non-traditional casting. And I've had issues with that in the past. I understand the want and the need, but there's a way of doing it that isn't clunky and bigoted. For example, let's talk about Hamilton. Okay? Big Broadway show, big hit. Lin-Manuel Miranda, right? And he's telling the story of Alexander Hamilton and all the people around him, and they're old white guys. Gordon says, how disappointing. And Hamilton heralded as a breakthrough show. Now, if you're looking at it from a historical perspective, you might ask, well, wait a minute. All of the characters in Hamilton, in real life, in history, were old white guys. And on stage, they're played by people of color. Blacks, Latinos, Spanish, a wide variety. Now, is that historically accurate? Is that politically correct? Is that woke? Well, there are some in the community who think it's just fine. Now, let me spin this for your consideration. I have talked about this in the past, about non-traditional casting. Let's say Eugene O'Neill's Iceman Cometh. It's a story of an Irish family full of alcoholics and the dysfunction of it. It's very specific in time, 1920s America. It's an all-white cast of all-white people. Now, there are some people who say, oh, you can go in there and, mix that up and put in, different genders and swap gender roles and suggest that one of the characters is gay or change their color, their culture. And I say, okay, all of that's interesting as an experiment, but are you being true to the text? Are you being true to the story of a white middle-class family dealing with alcoholism in the 1920s? Oh, that doesn't matter. Non-traditional casting. Anybody can play any role. Okay. If that's what you believe, then let me ask you this. We're remaking the story of Alex Haley's Roots. And Kunta Kinte is going to be played by Brad Pitt. And the rest of the cast, we're going non-traditional. We're going to have Filipinos. We're going to have, white guys, white women, no blacks in the show. We're non-traditional casting Roots. And people are offended by that idea. How dare you? Well, that's very bigoted of you. I say, well, why don't you have a problem with... You don't have a problem with, replacing the cast of Iceman Cometh. You don't have a problem with Hamilton not being about white guys and their foibles and their errors. But you have a problem recasting Roots as an all-white show, in an example. And then you're sometimes going to hear this phrase, it's our turn, and be very afraid of it. Because you are very subtly, but not quite so subtly, being put in your place. Well, it's our turn. It's our turn now. You had your turn. It's our turn. And now, I'm going to spin this one more time. Let's say someone is doing a revival of The Lion King on Broadway. And they decide, like Hamilton, to recast the show. And they decide they're going to use Chinese people, white people from the Midwest. Again, we don't need any blacks. Because it doesn't matter, right? Well, it's a show about Africa. Well, it's a show about lions. Iceman Cometh is a show about a white family dealing with alcoholism. Well, that's different. So the all-white version of Lion King? Well, in the woke theater of today, and theater is very woke, you're running out of time. That's unacceptable. How dare you even suggest it? But it's okay to turn around and say, no white person can interpret for Lion King. I don't find that argument very convincing. I do find it bigoted. I find it malinformed, disgusting. And what deaf person would come up with that as a functional theory? That only black interpreters can interpret for Lion King. Now, I wonder if Shelley Guy has, some kind of blood test that she uses, some kind of genetic DNA that she's going to employ in future productions to see if they're all white, all black, some black. How black is black enough? Is it only a visual for the hearing people watching the show? Oh yeah, she looks black, so she can interpret for the show. Well, her DNA is, 50% Chinese, 25% Filipino, 1% black, but she's dark-skinned, so I guess she passes. Is that how this is being decided? Or should it be decided on talent and ability and people who know what they're doing? So I hope moving forward, this is going to be a very deep and wounding and painful lesson for not only The Lion King, but for Broadway. Who decides who gets to interpret for what? And who is making the future decision if you look right? Oh, you're the wrong color. You're the wrong size. Women should interpret for women. Men should interpret for men. If you're going down that path, it's going to be a very dark and dim and terrible future. Because if we're all in this together, and I hope we are, we need to support each other and support the most talented person for the job. It doesn't matter what gender you are. It doesn't matter your sexual preference. It doesn't matter what color you are. That is the idea of equality. That is the idea of being appropriately woke. And these are important questions that need to be asked and acted upon appropriately. It's time for our next break. Coming up, need to have a little bit of fun. So we go to our old standby. AI. With Taylor Swift. Just the refreshing break we need. Returning in a moment. And hey, we're back here on Boles.tv. It's Boles.television. BOLES.tv. Yeah, a little bit of a long break. I was talking to Jan Marie about my rant about Lion King. She's here working today. Hey, it's Mr. Gordon. Welcome back. Thank you so much. And so we just, had our conversation about Lion King and what's going on and the mess it is and how unfortunate it is. So now it's time to cool down a little bit, have a little bit of fun. And we're going to start with this because I was inspired by this to do something this morning. This is the Midjourney Reddit group. Midjourney is my favorite so far, AI bot. And this is all people do. They go onto Reddit and they share their photographs. Now, they also do this on the Discord channel, but it's much cleaner here on Reddit, and they're a little bit bigger so you can kind of see them. This is a Polaroid that someone created. A dancing Hulk. Oral plague doctor. Now look at that, a broken man. Isn't that magnificent? That isn't a person. It's not a drawing. It's an AI bot. Time for coffee. A lot of robots, a lot of moon stuff. But some of these are very interesting. 50s Greaser. Now that looks like an actor, but I can't remember his name. But he looks very familiar to me. And it probably is based on that actor in some way. Oh, now that's interesting. It's a bug, not a feature. Multiple handshake. Johnny Depp. Is that Johnny Depp? Could be. There's some actor who has that mouth. I can't think of his name. Because hands are very ugly in AI. And so this one, they were just said, we're going to go for all of this ugliness. Skulls. You've seen enough beautiful women with tattoos. Yin and the yang. So one that I found while I was scrolling this morning, one thing they did say about Midjourney Bot, if you ever talk about, God or the heavens, it's always a circle with a portal. And I find that to be true. It's very funny. And people say, how do I get away from the circle? I don't want the circle anymore. So I was scrolling by, and this changes a lot. I was looking for a specific artist when I found this. Taylor Swift and David Bowie as captured by Vivian Mayer. I don't know Taylor Swift very well. This to me looks like her, but as you're going to see in some of the comments, people say no. Is that David Bowie? Is that Taylor Swift? I don't know. I don't care because it's a beautiful, beautiful image. Wow. Created by a bot. I was enjoying it. And then here's the first comment. I wonder why Taylor's face is such a problem for Midjourney. I mean, there are faces like Dua Lipa or Jennifer Lawrence that work pretty good, but Taylor always looks kind of weird. And then somebody probably speaks the truth saying Midjourney bot, doesn't want to incur the wrath of her lawyers from all the deep fakes. And then someone else says, well, I think that's true of Dali. I think Dali is terrified of being sued by Taylor Swift. Midjourney doesn't seem to care. Generally speaking, Midjourney has issues with two people in one frame as well. It almost always combines their features in some way. Very true. But not in this case. In this case, it's a beautiful home run. So earlier today, before I saw this, I was messing around with Midjourney Bot, trying to get Ed Roth as a style. Now, Ed Roth is a cartoonist from the 1970s who would make these rat rod stickers and t-shirts. And I was trying to get Midjourney Bot to recreate an Ed Roth image. And it's really this rat, this green rat with the thumbs up and that's what you're trying to recreate. I wasn't really able to do it, but I'll show you what I tried to do. Very cool. Big Daddy. So this is what Midjourney came up with for me. Okay. I try to say, rat rod with a rat, with a green monster. Hot rod. Just for being a cartoon, it's cute enough. But not what I was looking for. So I kept rolling and re-rolling, trying to change the thing a little bit, being more specific about rats, what I meant by a rat, what a rat rod was, hot rod, stick shift. Couldn't get any of it to work. So I was getting a little frustrated. And I said to myself, well, this isn't any fun. What else can I try to construct? See, these are interesting pieces of art, but they're not a rat rod. So I said, what if, I'm thinking rat rods, what if I just went back to my old friend Taylor and just said, very simply, Taylor Swift caricature. And this was the first results I got back. I don't know Taylor Swift at all. But to me, this looks like a Taylor Swift, sort of. Now, these are the initial ones. Now, as I keep rolling and re-rolling, you're going to see she changes a little bit. But that's sort of the idea, I guess. So all of this, somehow, Midjourney doesn't care about Taylor Swift. And I don't know why Taylor Swift would care. This is fun stuff. Now, people are using it illegally to, sell things in her name or to profit off of her name. That's different. But that's not Midjourney. Midjourney's contract says, we just provide a service. If someone uses our services illegally, you go sue them, which is the way it should be. So see, now the nose is changing, the eyes are changing, because I keep saying re-roll, and they're saying, okay, what is it that you don't like about what we're doing? So these are my Taylor Swift caricatures. And each one I get bound in a new way, learning to be with her. And I have a lot of them. And sometimes the background changes. The hair always sort of seems to stay the same, which is very interesting, because usually the bot, that's one of the first things that the bot changes. Now I'm just hitting re-roll on these. I'm not even going for individual updates, because I just want to see how far I can push the bot before it starts not looking like Taylor Swift. But as far as I know, it's not out of the question. Then I decided to get smart in a good way. And I said, hey, let's put Ed Roth from the Rat Rods. Ed Roth style Taylor Swift caricature. And this is what the AI came up with for Rat Rod Taylor Swift. Not really looking like her, but I like the effort. Then over here, I decided to get a little more interesting. And I said, well, let's go back to the original, because now we have version 4. Let's do Taylor Swift caricature in the style of Al Hirschfeld. Will it work? Didn't really work. It's a beautiful black and white caricature, but not Al Hirschfeld. Now, this is a mixture now, because we're rolling and re-rolling, because we're excited in the moment at 5 a.m. in the morning. So these are Taylor Swift by Ed Roth. Remember, none of these are real. None of this is Taylor Swift. The glasses here in this one is very interesting, very weird. And now we get into the Al Hirschfeld caricature. And I don't know Taylor Swift, but these appear to my unknowing eye to be very beautiful and very interesting. Now, a caricature, I always thought we're supposed to exaggerate, your big eyes or your big nose and sort of make fun of it. That's what a caricature is. These aren't doing that. These are very... So I don't know if I'm not using the right word. I didn't say cartoon. I said caricature. It's just beautiful artwork to me. And now we go back to Ed Roth. We're re-rolling Ed here. I love her with the serpent, whatever that is. That's the best. That's the closest I got to the rat rod. Was this serpent thing with Taylor? These beautiful black and white images. I find it shocking. More re-rolling with Ed. There's the serpent again. I don't know why. I didn't say serpent. This looks like Patrick Swayze behind her. Oh, and there she is as her own kind of serpent. And I think that's the last one I rolled. I don't even know what it is. So that's AI fun with Taylor Swift. It's a nice way to, as they say in the business, palate cleanse when you've been talking about a lot of terrible things for half an hour, like bigotry on Broadway. And now, we're going to take a little bit of a break. Returning in a moment, and we'll talk about a little bit more about this AI stuff, but from a different perspective. Because it's all very interesting to me, and where is it going? I don't know, but it's coming after us. AI news and facts. Returning in a moment. And we are back. This is Boles TV, BOLES.TV. Jana Marie is here working, has a big meeting at 2, so I was helping her get all set up. And it looks like she's good. Nothing like a Zoom meeting for 3 hours. So we're talking a little bit about AI in the news, but I have been inspired on the break to go back to my favorite person, my new favorite person, Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift as the Lion King. I mean, we have to see. It all comes together. You start here, you bring this up, it all comes together as a big circle, as a big ball. And we're relaxed, which is very slow, so I'm going to switch to fast for our next one, because it's not going to work on the one I just put. And we're probably at peak time, so it's going to take a while. So let's also do, while we're waiting, Taylor Swift, Broadway interpreter. We're just making associations. None of this is real. None of this has anything to do with anything. Now, it's already strange, and we're only 50% of the way there. I'm not liking what I'm seeing. This is not looking Swiftish, and it's not Lion King-ish. Maybe I should have said the Broadway show or the movie or a character from the show. Maybe that would have worked out better. But I don't know any of the characters from the show. Simba, I think that's one of them. Scar, oh. She was in Cats, wasn't she? The musical adaptation of Cats as a movie. Now, is that the saddest thing you've ever heard? That you ever did dare see? So much potential to have a wonderful, beautiful movie about cats. And they just were weird. It's very sad. But Taylor looked good. So here we go. It's over. Taylor Swift and the Lion King. Very, very un-Taylor-like. So, because this is what we do, we hit redo, and then we're going to try a different way of saying this. Imagine Taylor Swift as Scar from the Lion King. And I think Scar's the bad guy. Well, we know Taylor's not a bad person. But we are non-traditionally casting this. So we are casting against type, as they say in the biz. Taylor Swift Broadway interpreter. Is this wild or what? The cartoons, the caricatures look more like Taylor Swift than these do. There's nothing about Broadway, this at all. Interpreter, the Midjourney bot does not understand. Well, that's sad. I'm not even going to redo that one. I'm just going to come up with a whole new prompt. Taylor Swift, interpreter for the deaf. Boom. Now we'll see if we get some action on that one. Still working, still working. Oh, this is very weird. None of this is working. I'm going to redo that one. And we already redid that one. That's already done. Well, this is turning out to be a terrible mistake. Aha, so this is done. So this is, what is this one again? Taylor Swift as Scar from the Lion King. That's what this one is? Well, this isn't working at all. I don't know what's going on. I guess that one's sort of the one that looks the most Lion King-ish to me, but I have no idea. So this was done. Taylor Swift, interpreter for the deaf. Nothing there. They're not picking up on my cues. There must not be any reference image for Taylor that has to do anything to do with F. That's what I'm wondering. But it is a fascination. Oh, this one's almost done. Taylor Swift as the Lion King. Oh, it's just terrible. None of it's working. Redo. Redo. And then we'll go do the news. Hey, AI drew this gorgeous comic series. We'll go back to Taylor Swift in a moment. Can you tell? The Bestiary Chronicles is both a modern fable on intelligence and as a testament to how shockingly fast AI is evolving. And it is going very quickly, and we have to get caught up, or we are going to be left behind. A free 3-part comic series from Campfire Entertainment. The visuals in the trilogy, believe the first comics made with AI-assisted art, are stunning. They're also stunningly precise, as if they've come straight from the hand of a seasoned digital artist. And I can hear the outrage already. As I've said many times, my NFT friends really no longer chat with me anymore. I think they're done with me. Because it's more interesting than the art they're creating. I'm now publishing my NFTs, and they think I should be buying their NFTs. They're not going to buy my NFTs for their NFTs. Okay. AI image generation is advancing so rapidly that the lesson, now out, November 1st, marks a clear visual step up from the first comic in the trilogy. AI partner in art. Technology is changing our world. With artificial intelligence, both a new frontier of possibility, but also a development fraught with anxiety. AI generating visual art, composing songs, and even writing poetry and movie scripts is driving some of that anxiety, raising ethical and copyright concerns among artists and even lawyers. AI art isn't created in a vacuum. It works by absorbing and reconstructing existing art created by humans. As machine-made art improves, will those humans, actual graphic designers, illustrators, composers, and photographers, find edged out of work? Not necessarily. This is the AI cartoon site. A free comic, the lesson, subscribe. I don't see how you get to it. Oh, the PDF. Free download, PDF. Okay. So which one is the newest one? A free comic, the lesson, the Exodus, PDF. Here we go. It's all done in AI. Oh no! Somewhere in Nebraska. That's never a good thing. Nebraska is never used as a good starting point. It's usually something really terrible. Indian Point Secure Underground Facility. So all this art, all this cartooning, is not done by a human hand, but by a human mind, in concert with artificial intelligence. And I think, art created with Midjourney. Look out. I love it. And none of it looks like Taylor Swift. Hey, speaking of people being upset, DeviantArt. We used them yesterday with their DreamUp AI, which I thought was sort of interesting. DeviantArt users irate as site introduces AI art generator DreamUp that draws from artists' original work. All artists draw from other artists. So this is another protest article. At the time of this writing, the above tweet has 8,000 quote tweets and 400 retweets, a ratio that alludes to how this feature is being received. We're introducing new AI tools and controls, says DeviantArt. Dream up, control the amount of AI in your feed, clear labeling of art. So DeviantArt is an online art place where people publish their stuff. And I did 5 free updates yesterday, and I got an email from them this morning saying, you need to be published. You need to go back into your account and click on publish because you're an important person. I did not do that. But it makes sense that an online art gallery, an online art gathering place, is going to pick up AI. It makes sense. But these artists who think, that they're unique and special and are disturbed by the competition. Here's an example. Hey, DeviantArt, remember how we like each other and you even commissioned me one time? I'm several deviations into unchecking each little not authorized third-party AI checkbox, and this is absurd. Let us batch opt out of our whole galleries by default, or I'm deactivating. So I guess if you're an artist on DeviantArt, DeviantArt is saying we're going to use your images to inspire new images. And if you don't like it, you have to go opt out. And there isn't, I guess, a button opt out of all. You have to opt out individually. Is this completely original artwork? Maybe it is. It looks sort of common to me. Another response, DeviantArt has decided your artwork there is fair game to be used in a new AI generator by default. That's true of any place that uses this kind of information. Your tweets do not belong to you. They belong to Twitter. You have to go to an obscure form to opt out and requires 10 days to be reviewed. Update from DeviantArt. We heard the community feedback, and now all deviations are automatically labeled as not authorized for use in AI datasets. Mistake. Don't listen to a few people who are complaining. It's unclear how many artworks were already called by Dream Up prior to the update. Furthermore, considering the intense backlash to Dream Up, it's difficult to imagine many users will opt into allowing their art to be fed into Dream Up. It seems DeviantArt is hoping it will be exciting enough to entice paying subscribers. Currently, the site allows a user to enter a set number of free prompts, 5, before paywalling the feature for paying members. However, if there's little art to generate from, one wonders if Dream Up will be a feature worth paying for. Hear, hear! It's all a big mess. Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? Well, what we're going to do is go check in on our friend Taylor Swift and see what's going on. Do we have anything that's actually interesting in works? So, this is our first scar. We will light upscale redo. Taylor Swift is Scar from like a total disaster. Nothing about Taylor Swift here. We'll just redo the whole thing and hope something else comes out. Taylor Swift, Interpreter for the Deaf. Still weird, but we'll redo it just to see if we get something interesting back. Taylor Swift as the Lion King. This is a re-roll. I don't know what this is. No. I'm going down the defeat of flames here. None of these look like Taylor Swift. Swift Broadway Interpreter. Okay, we're not even on Broadway yet. I'm expecting that to come soon in a reroll. Okay, so we're updating all of that. Oh, sorry, I can't do the job. We've encountered an error. That's been happening quite often, and it doesn't make me very happy. I wonder which one it is. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Or maybe we'll never find out. So this is the thread they started about how upset they are. I'm beyond frustrated with DeviantArt and the timing of this. If you would like to opt out, the form is here. You had to go to a special form. Okay, we'll go to the form and look at Dream Up username opt-out request. So I guess you can opt in. Now maybe that's what it's become. Well, this still says opt-out. So funny that this week, the best possible moment they've ever seen users with Twitter imploding, which it is. One NYU business professor, I think it's Scott Galloway, said Twitter is going to be dead in a week. And that concerns me because my latest Boles blog article has a lot of embedded tweets in it. But I guess if it dies, I'll have to go and find Facebook alternatives. But it is fascinating to watch the total meltdown of Twitter. And all of my interactions and replies from people have just gone quiet. It's very weird. And I have Mastodon set up to go both ways. To if I tweet something, it gets posted on Mastodon. If I post something on Mastodon, it gets forwarded to tweet. And I can tell you, I have a 500% increase in interactions when my tweets are forwarded to Mastodon. Mastodon people comment on stuff, and they like it, and they updo you. And I appreciate it, and I follow them, and I like their stuff. It's a very different feel. I was reading the other day that Mastodon was created by people who were mainly gay, lesbian focused, and they wanted a private place to go where they wouldn't be hassled. And 13 years ago or so, they created Mastodon, and it's been a wonderful oasis and a safe haven ever since. And they're determined to keep it that way, which I appreciate. If people want to go pick on them and pick fights, they can go to Truth Social and pick on each other. The form I linked above is actually just to remove your username and aliases from being used in prompts. To actually remove your artwork from being eligible for being dreamt up, you need to go to Edit and edit each individual deviation and click a tiny checkbox. I have 17 years of deviations on there. Oh, that doesn't look good. Well, I guess they fixed it, but they fixed it because of threads like this. DeviantArt cannot guarantee it will not appear in any third-party databases. Probably because they've been scraping the DeviantArt databases for probably several years now. Somebody said Midjourney doesn't have anything in its database after 2019. That's interesting, and I don't know why. Let's go check out our friend Taylor Swift and see what's happening. These are the redos. Oh, we're still going. We're still running. Okay, this is new. See, now we're slowly starting to get there. Now I need to update this one so the image machine knows that this is what I'm looking for. So I will do that. That is 1, 2, 3. Image 3, update, redo. Taylor Swift, interpreter for the deaf. No change. None whatsoever. But now they're writing on her dress. Taylor Swift as the Lion King. Okay, no. I should have said Taylor Swift King Cats or something like that. Taylor Swift, Broadway interpreter. No. None of that looks good. This is now being updated. This is being redone. It doesn't look promising. Now, what was this other thing we had going on here? Oh, it was the same thing. I kept messing it up. It's a bad, it's online. It all depends on how you look at it. It might be an opportunity that you don't know you had, but you now know you want to have. So we're going to finish the show, and we'll finish while we're, here's our variations. So this is getting closer to making her part of the cast of The Lion King. So we're going to light scale up redo, and we're going to also beta scale upscale her, because sometimes that really gets funky, and we like that. Here's another version of Her is the Lion King. No. Very weird. I don't understand what's going on with this. I'm very confused. Usually MJ behaves better than this. So we had a wonderful, interesting show today. Talked a little bit about the Trumps. I do feel for Tiffany Trump, named after Tiffany. I remember when she was a little tiny girl in New York City in her beautiful blue dress. Hey, Gordon says, thanks for having us. Thank you for being here, Gordon. Appreciate you. And then they got divorced and they moved out of New York and I think went to California for a while. And I know there's a lot of hostility there from the original Trump children to the affair with Marla. But that's not Tiffany's fault. So it's nice they all went there to enjoy her wedding. We talked about bigotry on Broadway. Oh, I'm making that into a podcast and a highlight coming up soon to a visual area near you and to humanmeme.com as soon as I finish the show. Because this needs to be propagated and discussed. And there are some students, who just were generally told about this, and the majority of the class was minority, and their response was, I don't know how I feel about this. I need to think about it a little more. Which is a fair response. You're not picking one side over the other, although you may want to. You're trying to say, maybe there's more going on here than I understand, and maybe I need to go back and look at it myself. So we'll see how these conversations evolve. We also had a lot of fun with Taylor Swift today. She's AI ready and AI ready to go. This doesn't make any sense. I don't even know what this is. Now she's completely gone into a lion. It's the spirit of the lion. So this is a change, not much of a change. Detailed redo, remaster. This, okay. They added a little more stage makeup to her face, gave it a little bit more lion eyes. That's good. Detailed upscale, redo, beta redo, remaster. We'll just do the whole thing. And we're going to run out of time, so that's okay. We'll just let that go. So, I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful rest, a nice sleep, a good meditation. And when ye shall awaken, may your soul be filled with joy and absolutely no Broadway bigotry at all. And I thank you for being here, and I will see you again soon. Thank you so much.